Hi. Oh, there
Hey
it's
Bev,
on.
hey Bev, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Steve?
I'm good. I'm good. It's great to see you again. How's everything been going?
It's been good. I have been really busy lately, so my schedule is kind of out of whack with studying, but I have been able to get it in here and there. And I'm PTing now. So weekly, I'll probably bump that up to 2 times a week, I would guess. But it's been good, really following your advice on reviewing and doing everything I've seen in the lessons. So yeah, we're getting there.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great to hear. That's great to hear. What's your target test date?
Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about today.
Sure. All right, let's do it.
So I originally was thinking October because I started in July and I thought 3 months would be good. So now, and what I wanted to talk to you about is now I'm thinking, should I wait until November? Because the sign up date for October is next Wednesday, the 25th. And so I'm kind of weighing my options and doing a cost benefit analysis of waiting for the November test because my plan is all of my materials are done in terms of the applications. So as soon as the score comes out, I'll apply. So it's not like I'm gonna have to wait a couple months to submit. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now, what I wanted to discuss with you, kind of breaking all that down.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, it really comes down to where your practice test scores as the exam approaches and how much more could you improve with the additional month. So I'd suggest see where your practice test results are around the sign up deadline and make a decision then. And you could potentially take both or register for both
Yeah.
and then withdraw from October if as it gets closer, you feel like November is really going to be it for you. But they're both perfectly early in the cycle. And so if you could get even a couple points more by doing November instead or in addition, I would do November.
Okay. And I think that, thank you for that advice. I've been really thinking about when I took the test a year ago, I was going to take it in October. And then I decided to wait, and I was glad I did. I guess my worry is about would another month to wait applying hurt me in the cycle or not? I know that's hard to tell because we don't really know what this cycle is going to look like. But I guess what have students thought about in the past in terms of waiting that extra month in terms of their application? Because I definitely think I could bump my score up more with that extra month, that it would give me kind of a pause to, yeah, to do a little better.
If you can bump it up, then November is your answer. It really is. It's as simple as that. Applying early, quote unquote, early matters much, much less than it used to. And what early means has changed over time as well. So previous cycles, especially going back 5+ years, are not that relevant at all. You might see outdated information out there about that. But November is still considered early at this point. January, February are kind of in the middle. So if you know that you can get a few points more by doing November, then that's all you got to do. Just do November.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good. Okay. That's probably what I'm going to do. I definitely think it's hard to weigh all of this because you want to make sure that you're not making the wrong choice, but it seems that just based on what I did a year ago, it certainly was helpful to be doing that. So I definitely will go ahead and do
Great.
that. I guess in terms of how many PTs before I know kind of my average and where I'm at, because right now, let's see, I've done 3. So would it be at like 10 with or 5, and then look at 10, or how can I weigh all that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I typically suggest taking the average of the most recent 5 practice tests
Okay.
that you've done in a relatively short period. So if you're doing 2 a week, that's a short enough period. So over a 2.5 week span, you'll see where you're at. That's a reasonable indication. And I suggest at least 5 because anyone can have a bad day, anyone can have a great day, and you want something that's representative. So fluctuations between those 5 are normal. And there could be wild swings between them too. There could be a 10-point difference.
Right.
So that's why I suggest getting 5 at least under your belt to suggest where you're at.
Okay.
And the nice thing about,
oh, go ahead,
sorry,
please.
I was just going to say the nice thing about doing an additional month of prep between October and November is that gives you more time to get the full routine of taking practice tests, dealing with the endurance factors and pacing, and of course the new 4-section format of the LSAT as well, including that unscored experimental section. So all those run-throughs are really helpful.
And I think I watched a video you were explaining this, but just remind me. So with the 4 section, but it's not 2 logic reasoning an LG, and a reading comp, right? The experimental is that extra fourth. Is that right?
Right. So there are now three scored sections, only one of games, one of reasoning, one of reading comp, and then that unscored fourth could be any of the types and be any position. So the prep tests you see published out there, including in LawHub, that's just an artifact from the old LSAT in person where they had 2 scored LRs.
Okay. Yeah. I took the one with the 2 scored LRs. So I'm living in this like scared mindset. There's going to be 5 sections. Okay. That's good. The other thing and you just touched on this, and I was going to ask about endurance. That's something that I'm struggling with now. And I know that I've just kind of started PTing again, but I've really found myself struggling in that space. And I don't really know, I'm guessing it's just because I've started again, but like, what's the best way other than to obviously have everything in place like you would on test day to really work on that endurance factor?
Well, you can build it up bit by bit.
Okay.
So the LSAT you'll take in October or November, going forward anyway, regardless, is 2 sections back to back, then a 10-minute break, then 2 more sections back to back. So that full sitting, all said and done, is going to be close to 3 hours. But you don't have to go from 0 to the full 3-ish hours all at once. You can do 2 sections back to back and have that be it for endurance training on one day. Or you could do a single section to work on pacing. Then maybe a couple of days later, you do 2 sections back to back. Then you do 2 sections, 10-minute break, 1 more section. So you could do it incrementally. It doesn't have to be all at once.
Okay. Yeah. I find that it's been really tough with reading comp for some reason. I don't know what's going on, but it has just like totally, I'm just not there. So I definitely will try and space it out before I kind of do it all in one sitting, but it's been a real challenge. Not real sure why.
Yeah, it's a grind. I mean, it's because the reading comp passages are deliberately poorly written and obtuse. They're difficult to understand. And so the best training is to just expose yourself to it as much as possible without burning out, of course, over a long period of time. And if reading comp is the thing you don't like, then of course you want to practice it more. So you can choose certain prep tests to practice this on. It doesn't have to be every single test you do. Yeah. But I would suggest doing at least some sittings where you have 2 reading comps back to back, as nightmarish as that would seem, because that is a possibility technically for what you experience on test day. It could be reading comp, break, games, reasoning, or the opposite, or 2 games back to back, or 2 reasonings back to back. You want to practice every variety, especially the ones that you wouldn't like to see, so that you can inoculate yourself against those.
Do you think it would be, I mean, obviously I want to take some of them like one test in one sitting, but do you think it would be a good idea to mix up, like I'm just making this up, but let's say I did like a mix of 68 and 69 tests in terms to do that?
That's totally fine. That's totally fine. I mean, especially considering that the raw score conversions are kind of a mess anyway. We don't really have the information for the newer formats. So if you ever take a practice test with 2 LRs, one of them being your experimental section, the old format LSATs are perfectly designed for that, where the raw score conversions could be useful for you to some extent, at least. But for the others, I would just basically do them in whatever arrangement serves your purposes. And then later, after the fact, after you've done several practice tests, you can calculate what the raw score conversions would have been if you rearrange the Frankenstein exams you've constructed for yourself.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, of course. Anything else for today, Bev?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad we had the chance to meet again. Reach out if you need anything going forward. I'm happy to help.
I will, for sure. Thanks so much, Steve.
Of course. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.